In this video, we're going to take a look at Notre Dame, who just had a couple of scores in the transfer portal. We're going to see how those new pieces, Liatu King and Liza Karlen, fit into their overall lineup and where Notre Dame sits going into the 24-25 season. Before we start, if you like the content, then please subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. All right, let's get into this. So after last season ended, Charlie Creme had Notre Dame listed as the number 3 team in the nation in his way too early college rankings for the 24-25 season. If you take a look now, Notre Dame has actually dropped below UConn and is number 4, and UConn moved up from 4 to 3. And essentially that was based on how UConn did. They added recruit Sarah Strong, who's the number 1 recruit in the nation, who will presumably replace Aaliyah Edwards. As well, they got depth at the point guard position to replace Nika Mule as they added Caitlin Chin. As well, during that period, Notre Dame had gotten a little bit weaker as Nat Marshall, the 6'5 backup center, had entered the portal and wound up transferring to Miami, which hurt them a little bit as Kylie Watson, their starting center, who's 6'4", she got injured during the ACC tournament, and a time frame for her return is unclear at this stage. So it would have been nice to have Marshall cover the post position while Watson is recovering from her knee injury, as well as split time with highly rated incoming recruit, number 1 post player in the nation, Kate Caval. She's rated number 5 nationally overall. But as I've said before, the portal taketh, the portal giveth. So obviously they lost Marshall, which hurts a bit, but they've gained quite nicely. With Liatu King and Liza Karlen, this is sort of like the old days when NFL free agency started. All the high-profile players would go, and then you would see Belichick sort of fill in with starters and high-quality players after the second week on good quality contracts. That's what this has the feel to me a little bit like, because Liatu King, she's very, very solid. So she's a bit undersized for a forward at 6 foot. She reminds me a little bit of Anissa Morrow, a little bit more slender, but yeah, she averaged double-doubles in the ACC last season, going for 18 points, 10 rebounds for Pitt, averaged 1.9 steals, and shot 52% from the floor. She doesn't take three-pointers. Her game is really either mid-range or going hard to the basket or posting up hard. Now, the other player they got was Liza Karlen, and she's a bit longer than King, so she's 6'2", and she had a good season last year for Marquette, averaging 17.7 points, 7.9 rebounds, shot 49% from the floor, and she can shoot the 3 ball, going 35% on 70 attempts. And overall, what these 2 players offer Notre Dame is just more flexibility and quality depth on the players. Their lineup, like they have a lot of talent on their roster going into the 24-25 season, but it's going to be a bit of a puzzle how Ivy puts this together, as it's not really straightforward, at least up front. In the backcourt, it's pretty clear. So Olivia Miles will return from her knee injury. She will be paired with Hannah Hidalgo. I would suggest that Miles will run the point and have the ball in her hands, because Hidalgo is such a good shooter that she can play off of Miles, and that's how I would envision how they'll run this. Or the other potential option, I wonder if they're going to try to stagger their minutes a little bit, like not too obvious, but because they have so much forward depth, you could see Miles going off, Hidalgo running the point, and then Citron would be on at the other guard, because I think they'll start a 3-guard rotation of Olivia Miles, Hannah Hidalgo, Sonia Citron, and then Maddie Westbeld at forward, and then Kate Caval at center. The other potential option is they could try to play Westbeld at center. She's undersized a bit, and then use the other 2, either Liatu King or Liza Karlen, to play that power forward spot. A lot of this will obviously depend on how Kate Caval looks when she arrives at Notre Dame and how she practices. If she's going well, much like Hannah Hidalgo, then I could see them just saying, let's get her in the starting lineup and get her minutes to get her up to speed. And then you sort of know in the back of your mind that you have hopefully Watson coming back in the early part of 25 to get her ready for the tournament. And really, the main thing they need from Kate Caval is to play defense and rebound, as all the other players, they'll have a lot of scoring. Like Olivia Miles was 14 points. In the season before she got injured, Hidalgo averaged 22 points last year. Citron last season was 17 points. And Maddie Westbeld was 14 points. And they're all pretty efficient, all shooting around 45, 46 in that percentage range. So they will be able to score efficiently. They have depth as well because their class last year was highly rated, obviously, with Hannah Hidalgo, but they had two other players. So Cass Prosper, who was 6'2" and a guard. She was injured. It appears like she had a stress injury in her foot. Between the two, the other freshman was Emma Risch, who was the number 20 prospect. So Prosper was number 16. Risch was number 20. Between them, they only played 12 games, and they're both guards. Like Emma Risch is a shooter. Went out. She had like a hip injury. It sounded like a cam lesion where they shave it down. So she should be fine going into the 24-25 season. Same thing for Prosper. You would think they'd both be ready to go, and hopefully that just gives them their added depth. That's what Ivy would be hoping for going into next season. The real key to their season, I think it's pretty obvious, is how are Hannah Hidalgo and Olivia Miles going to gel playing together, and what is the overall plan for them? Is it Miles will handle the ball, or will they stagger their minutes like I said earlier? But between those two, if they can work it out where they work effectively, then Notre Dame just looks really, really good on paper, no doubt. And a lot of that's just really due to their flexibility, because if they sub off Miles and put in, let's say, Liza Karlen, then you'll have four shooters on the floor. You'll have Hidalgo, Citron, Westbeld, and Karlen, and then you could have Kate Cavell at center. Or again, they just have so many options of how they can match up their lineup. The other one I didn't even mention was KK Bransford. Now, Bransford actually went into the portal, but then she has returned to Notre Dame. So I don't know if she couldn't find an alternate school, or she didn't find anything she liked. Oh, well, obviously she thought Notre Dame, coming back to Notre Dame, was the best option for her. But how she fits into the lineup puzzle will be interesting, because she's a guard, but she can't shoot. Like, she's a real sort of that old school, I'll post you up and I'll collect garbage and put it back in, but she really can't stretch teams. They definitely don't fear her shot. Now, last season, she averaged 25 minutes and got 8.2 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 2 assists, but she only shot 39% from the floor and was 22% from the three-point line. But it looks like she'll be in a fight for playing time with the second-year freshman recruits as well as the transfer players. It'll just be a lot tighter to try to get minutes. And that's the big thing that King and Karlen bring, is just more depth, more competition. And more competition just means everybody is better, and that's what Ivy has to be excited about. Now, overall, over to you. Do you think UConn should be rated ahead of Notre Dame, or do you think with these recent additions of Karlen and King, should Notre Dame be higher than UConn? Noting these are preseason polls, and I understand their value is probably limited, seeing that they had South Carolina 7 last year. But anyway, it's fun to talk about. Your comments, your feedback, your poison is all welcome. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night.